Good evening, and welcome back to the Shining Light podcast. This is the final chapter, part 7, of our series covering the 2022 Goshen School Board Election. If you've been following along, you'll know that the legal proceedings in this case have not been without concern. Serious questions remain about the integrity of the case and about justice for people who engage in corruption in the city of Goshen. Alan Kaufman, Mario Garber, and Andrea Johnson are currently set for their day in court, with Kaufman and Garber's jury trials scheduled for October 21st, 2024, and Johnson's for December 2nd. These trials will determine whether the remaining charges will result in significant outcomes. But what of board work itself? If candidates are willing to break laws and deceive the public in this way, were they willing to do that as board members? When Glick arrived on the board in January 2023, he quickly discovered that misleading the public was not unique to the campaign. Large amounts of business that was considered unpopular with the public was being conducted behind closed doors in executive sessions. However, under Indiana law, most topics may not be discussed outside of public meetings with a posted agenda. The open door law further requires that for an executive session to take place, the public must be notified 48 hours in advance, not including weekends or holidays, and the minutes and memoranda for executive sessions must identify the specific part of the open door law that allowed it to be a private meeting. They must also state that no other matters were discussed during the session. These minutes are then signed by the board members in attendance. The board was using the exception granted to train school board members with an outside consultant about the performance of the role of the members as public officials, declaring that no other topics were discussed, while freely covering items not allowed. For example, on January 10, 2023, Superintendent Steve Hope wrote the board stating, "We are looking at January 23rd for an executive session. I want to review the referendum with the Winston Terrell Group and touch on repurposing Chandler and the model principle." Again, on January 17th, he wrote, "We will have an executive session next Monday, January 23rd at 5:30 p.m. in the boardroom. The purpose of this meeting will be to discuss the possibilities about going for or not going for the next referendum. We can also use this time to talk about some other efficiencies at Chandler and model." On January 24th, 2023, following the executive session, Hope summarized what happened at that meeting. "Board members, thank you for all the questions and conversation yesterday evening at the executive session. Although not unanimous, we had consensus on tentatively moving forward with a referendum. I will bring forth a timeline and then we can discuss this in another executive session." When the minutes for this meeting were to be voted on and approved, the minutes stated, "The governing body named above conducted an executive session pursuant to Indiana's Open Meetings Law, IC 5-14-1.5-6.1-10, to train school board members with an outside consultant about the performance of their role as public officials. As there was no further business to come before the board, the meeting was adjourned at 7:55 p.m. The false minutes were signed by all board members in attendance. Glick was out of the country at the time, but discovered the conflict through the emails. After a future executive session also turned out to be mislabeled, Glick filed a complaint with the public access counselor. In response, Hope wrote the board in an email chain that specifically excluded Glick. "Last Thursday, Roger and I met with Ryan about several issues he has brought to my attention, including the executive session. This was a respectful conversation even though there was little consensus on anything we discussed. Ryan feels like the executive session should have been a public meeting with public input. He was especially put off with my suggestion that a referendum be run in an off-election year, 2025. Roger attempted to reason with him and suggested to Ryan that as part of a board you discuss differences and then stay united as a board. Ryan believes that he is beholden only to those who voted for him, which discounts the majority of the people in his district who voted for someone else. It should be noted that the purpose of holding a referendum vote in an off-election year is to try to keep as many people home as possible and only get supporters to show up. It can make an unwinnable and unpopular referendum winnable simply by making it the only issue being voted on. Not only were board members involved with this case, actively involving themselves with off-the-record discussions, like the referendum and the closing of Chandler Elementary, in executive session, but Nafziger and Elizalde were very much in support of it. Elizalde went so far as to email the board, "The executive meetings are very important. I do not believe at all that we should have less of them. If anything, I think we do not have enough. As long as we are doing everything according to the law, we should continue with our practices." As mentioned, even the repurposing of Chandler Elementary School was being done behind closed doors and without community, or even the school staff input. The attempt to spring this on the public without notice and without a board vote was so intentional that Hope wrote the board on January 31st that he wanted to shut down the school and repurpose the building without any board action, as I think that just makes it easier. Only Glick's protest and appeal to legal counsel forced it to a vote. Clearly, then, this was not merely an election issue. It was a character issue that wound its way through the board as a public entity. It is also an issue with part of the community who think that this type of behavior should not be prosecuted. On July 6, 2024, a group wrote a letter to the editor in the Goshen News stating that the prosecutor was being too harsh and that she should not have filed charges against Kaufman. The letter writers included former Democratic City Council member Julia Gotcha, former Democratic Goshen Mayor Mike Puro, former GCS Superintendent Bruce Stolley, former GCS Superintendent and mailer donor Diane Woodworth, Goshen College affiliated Phyllis Woolleman, and former Goshen College professor and former Dean of Students Norman Kaufman. But they also signed their letter All of Goshen, demonstrating their belief that they have a right to speak for everyone and that they are the real representatives of the Goshen community. Glick holds a different view, believing that true representation requires transparency, which benefits everyone, whether conservative, moderate, or liberal. Since joining the board, he has seen the end of illegal executive sessions, which were once common. Now, these sessions are rare and limited to topics explicitly approved by law. However, those who supported board members involved in such questionable practices, both on and off the board, continue to push their preferred candidates in order to maintain a majority position on the board. This makes the mailer controversy highly relevant as we approach the 2024 Goshen School Board elections for Districts 2 and 4. When we examine the group that funded the mailer and the candidates they chose to back, both then and now, a clearer picture begins to emerge. As previously reported, Sue Neeb gathered contributions from 32 individuals, adding her own money to make a significant donation to Kaufman. The donor list, which is central to the case, was not made public for some time and only came to light through a public records request. Upon reviewing the list, it's evident that most of the donors share a common connection. Consider these details. Sue Neeb was the organizer of the fundraiser, a Goshen College donor, and the wife of Galen Miller, who is a Goshen College alumnus and the owner of Miller's Poultry. They are associated with College Mennonite Church. Dina Minnick, collaborator with the Goshen College Music Department. Pamela J. Klaus, a Goshen College donor. Winifred Yordy, Goshen College alumna, founder with her husband John of the John D. and M. Winifred Yordy Scholarship Fund at Goshen College. John Yordy was a Goshen College chemistry professor, provost, and interim president. Jane E. Short, Goshen College alumna. Faye Peterson Pottinger, former Democratic Mayor Jeremy Stutzman's mother-in-law, honored donor to Goshen College. William Mark Rosenberry, former Manchester University Board of Trustees member, formerly board treasurer for the ACLU of Iowa, current board member at College Mennonite Church. Marilyn Miller, Goshen College alumna, along with her husband, Glenn Miller. Heavily involved with the Mennonite Central Committee and Goshen College. Glenn served both as the director of MCC India and as an ambassador for Goshen College. Associated with Assembly Mennonite Church. Patty J. Minnick, Goshen College donor, BA of Arts from Manchester University. Ann K. Herendine, Goshen College donor. Rex Hooley, Goshen College donor. He is married to Marty Lehman, who was the director of admissions at Goshen College for a number of years, served in leadership positions in the Mennonite Church USA, and was formerly administrative pastor at College Mennonite Church. Daniel Grimes, graduate of Eastern Mennonite University and associated with Berkey Avenue Mennonite Church. Formerly vice president of the Anabaptist Mennonite Biblical Seminary. His children all graduated from Goshen College. He previously served as a Democrat on the Goshen City Council and was the Democratic-appointed member of the Elkhart County Election Board at the time of the fundraiser. Jane Glick, daughter of Goshen College alumna Jennifer Glick, who also served on the Goshen City Plan Commission and Citizens for Bureau Mayor as a supporter of the Democratic Party. Phil Waite, pastoral team leader at College Mennonite Church, formerly worked at the Mennonite Central Committee and Mennonite Board of Missions, alumnus of Anabaptist Mennonite Biblical Seminary. Kara Jeeves, Goshen College alumna and donor. Lavon Shetler, Goshen College grad and former GHS English teacher. She resigned from her position at the beginning of 2024 and surrendered her license to teach in the state of Indiana. She is associated with both Berkey Avenue Mennonite Church and Silverwood Mennonite Church. Marcia Yost, Director of the Arts at Goshen College. She is associated with Assembly Mennonite Church in Goshen. James Gingerich, Goshen College alumnus. Diane Woodworth. Woodworth was superintendent of Goshen Community Schools for 15 years, and under her leadership, multiple referendums were passed. Her husband Todd and 3 children are Goshen College alumni, and they are associated with 8th Street Mennonite Church in Goshen. She assisted Andrea Johnson with her campaign for the District 1 seat and has endorsed Phil Lederach's wife, Lisa, for District 4 in the 2024 Goshen School Board election. Marilyn Torres, associated with Faith Mennonite Church. Matt Nafziger is Roger Nafziger's son and a Goshen College alumnus. Phil Lederach, Goshen College alumnus with a BA in English, Democratic member of the Goshen City Council. His wife, Lisa Lederach, is currently running for District 4 of the Goshen School Board, along with Brandon Miller for District 2. District 4 is currently held by Goshen School Board Vice President Keith Goodman and was formerly held by Alan Kaufman before he resigned following the criminal charges being filed. Goshen College claims that Phil Lederach represents the college on the city council and is dedicated to keeping Goshen on its progressive path. Deanna Beth Chupp, Manchester College alumna. Lauren King works for the Community Foundation of Elkhart County and has a Bachelor of Arts from Goshen College. While declaring they like diversity, there is a shocking lack of it in this list. Goshen College, a liberal Mennonite institution, is a common thread running through most of the donors, and the Mennonite Church features prominently throughout. The people they supported aligned with this list as well. Roger Nafziger was a Goshen College alumnus and worked for the college for 20 years as the director of planned giving. He is associated with 8th Street Mennonite Church. Jose Elizalde was a Mennonite pastor for 15 years and attended both Eastern Mennonite Seminary and Goshen College. Alan Kaufman was also a Goshen College alumnus. Already on the board, Maria Sanchez Schurch is a former Goshen College professor, and her husband currently is. This group considers themselves necessary for a strong city and a strong school system, saying in the mailer that the strength of the school system was being threatened by outside candidates. After being elected to the Goshen City Council, Goshen College declared that Democrat Phil Lederach was joining the council as a caretaker of schools. Beyond that, it said he was preparing to represent Goshen College on the city council, with his main goals revolving around ensuring that Goshen remains on the progressive path it has been on. This same group is now endorsing Lisa Lederach and Brandon Miller, who are running a unified campaign for Districts 2 and 4 in an attempt to wrestle control of the board back firmly in their court. During the West Goshen Neighborhood Candidate Forum on October 31st, 2022, Goshen City Councilman Doug Nusley said to the candidates on the mailer, "The school board is supposed to be bipartisan, and the push behind you guys is all Democrat." In reply, Andrea Johnson said, "Yes, the school board is supposed to be bipartisan, and that's how the school board operates. But there are people who are like-minded about strictly the philosophy, and if they happen to be more on the Democratic side, that's just the reality of the situation." What philosophy is it that Johnson thought they were in agreement on? Is it the philosophy that the former English teacher on the book review committee gave when she said, "The sex scenes made me uncomfortable, but I am glad the book is available for kids to read"? Is it the philosophies of College Mennonite Church, which recently told kids during their church service that they shouldn't burn natural fuels and can help our environment by hugging trees? Is it the philosophy of Alan Kaufman, who linked to an article on his Facebook page from the Communist China Daily newspaper, which both favorably quoted Karl Marx and said, "Killing children is the key to social progress." Is it the philosophy of Marty Lehman, wife of donor Rex Hooley, where she said sex offenders and slum lords should be welcomed with no expectation of change? Remember that Levon Shetler was one of the donors behind the mailer. During the 2022 election, Kaufman posted an article on his Facebook page from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, which stated that people should, 1, talk to school board candidates. If they are endorsed by or belong to a radical far-right group such as Purple for Parents, ask how this will affect their votes on school board issues. 2, remember that endorsements carry paybacks. That demand for loyalty is what we call the Godfather favor. Remember in The Godfather when Marlon Brando tells the person who wants assistance that his request is granted, but that someday he would be asked for a favor in return? Yeah, kind of like that. How will the massive force of Goshen College and a small group of associated Mennonite churches behind these candidates affect their votes? If endorsements carry paybacks, what paybacks are these beholden to? A school board member should be beholden to 2 things: the truth first, and those they represent second. No paybacks or crazy votes required. They should be able to stand on their own 2 feet and do what is right. But considering the realities of the deception that went on in this case, what expectation can we have of that occurring with these candidates? The mailer saga is not over. Now it's up to the voters of Goshen, Indiana, to decide what to do with it. What type of school board will best represent what they want in their schools? How important is law-abiding honesty and transparency for the school board? Should Goshen College have that much sway in the city and the schools? Is it important to have some independent people on the board that represent the average parents in the community outside of the college and its associated radically left Mennonite churches and their sexual agendas? With these questions, we come to the close of part 7 of the Goshen School Board election story. It's your story now. What will you do with it? Until next time, have a great evening, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Shining Light Podcast. This podcast was written and produced without expense by Ryan Glick, other than it utilized an already possessed ChatGPT Plus subscription to produce the voice. It was written and generated without the aid or collaboration of any candidate or campaign.